Very good. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's final presentation for our Community Action Plan. As you may or may not be aware, this has been a 5-month process. We've had 40 volunteers, dedicated volunteers, who have been meeting every other week. I estimate 1,000 hours of volunteer hours to put together this presentation tonight. And so I am extremely grateful for the efforts that have been made today. My name is Nathan Teal. I'm the city administrator here in Beaver Dam. And the whole purpose of this project was to do a community engagement effort in preparation for our comprehensive plan. Most people don't know what a comprehensive plan is, but it's a fancy word for a time period that we want to schedule some recommendations for our council and how we grow and develop as a community. And we're supposed to do it every 10 years. Well, Beaver Dam's comprehensive plan is a little older than that, 2009, and we thought we ought to dust it off and reinvigorate it. And so we did a kickoff meeting in December and invited community members to basically participate and give us feedback and really try to make this plan their own. And so with that, I invited Todd Streeter with Community Collaborations to help facilitate this whole process. Before we begin, can we just do a round of applause for all the volunteers who put effort? If it weren't for them and their time, this would not happen tonight. And so I am grateful to them. And then also, we'll give a round of applause to Todd as he makes his way up here. So Todd, I will turn the time over to you. Oh, I should introduce council members. They're here. Will all the council members that are here just stand, make yourself known? Okay. So we've got a few here. We've got 14 council members. Not all of them are here tonight, but we've got at least half, which is good. And I know the mayor is planning on watching this video. We've got this recorded, and so he's planning on watching. So just know that these efforts matter and that the council wants to know and is interested in what is being presented tonight. So thank you, council members, for your support in this effort. Now, Todd. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Good evening, and thank you for all coming here this evening. I do want to thank also the council for approving this opportunity to be part of this comprehensive plan project, and for Nathan for the wonderful job he's been doing in assisting and supporting the committee's work through all the 5 months that we've been working together. I also want to thank the Watermark for sponsoring our bi-monthly meetings that we've been holding there and doing our work from January till last night, as a matter of fact. And also the Beaver Dam Area Theater for hosting our kickoff meeting back in December. And of course, the high school for the auditorium hosting tonight's presentation. So thank you all. Before we start the presentation, I want to take a moment to provide a little background on the Community Action Plan, or the CAP project that we call it. Unlike traditional methods, this is a true bottom-up process where the community drives the project. There are no city officials, no city staff, no professional planners. We're involved in creating the CAP committee's recommendations that are being presented tonight. What you will see is work that committee members have done, their research, and oftentimes reaching out to third parties to gain greater insights into their concepts. The committee then begins to focus on a number of recommended concepts that they are now preparing and sharing with you tonight. These recommendations, Nathan said, will be incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan, and it will be convened ongoing consideration for the next 10 to 15 years. Ultimately, the vision for the future of Beaver Dam has been created by this group of dedicated community volunteers. Tonight, we are pretty much at the top step of this process where we are really focusing on the vision. And as you can see, the next step is really to take these ideas and break them down into short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals or objectives. The next step then is to choose which ones you want to work on and then create those opportunities, get community support behind them, and then move on to a phased success of implementation. So tonight, Think of tonight as Beaver Dam's future. Tonight is the beginning of an ever-evolving process to usher these recommendations and many others that may follow to build a successful and vibrant community you want to create for decades to come. We also want to give a great deal of thanks to both Isabel Liener and Kim Mellenberg for their creative talents in designing both the logo and creating the name for the CAP Committee project. The objective in having this is to have a moniker that supersedes tonight, but carries on with this process as it continues to move forward. So we just want to give them a round of applause for putting that work together. Now, we're going to start the presentation, but as you hear from presentation to presentation, you will find some similarities between some of these ideas or concepts. And that is almost intentional by design, in that when we first had our first meeting, I explained to the group that even though we have 7 subcommittees with 7 different focuses, everything is intertwined together when you look at community as a whole. So they're not really inseparable, but they create a web, like a fabric. So when you have one committee talking about housing in a general sense, which we'll hear next, you'll also hear from Diversified Living, who will talk about specifics of housing. So there is some design to some of this, and we're not being repetitive, we're just being supportive with everybody's ideas and recommendations. So without further ado,
So the mission of the Creating Community Group was to make recommendations on land use and zoning in our city so they can function better for us residents, so we can be more attractive to tourist dollars, stay affordable, and have a good quality of life. We created some recommendations based on input from the wider CAP committee, other residents, and city leaders. We focused on addressing problems that were identified and also in supporting the things that we already love about Beaver Dam. So this chart shows how the comprehensive plan is a foundation for city land use and development. Ooh, there we go. And how, as the process continues, citizens have less control over what gets built where and how. So this quote from Jane Jacobs really kind of captures the approach that we took to this process. Designing a dream city is easy. Rebuilding a living one takes imagination. And that's what we applied. Some big ideas and some imagination. We created 6 principles to guide us in making recommendations to address citizen concerns. 1, enhance quality of life. 2, support a small town identity. 3, make Beaver Dam safe and welcoming. 4, increase housing quality and availability. 5, be fiscally responsible. And 6, to prevent sprawl. So we worked on crafting a vision of Beaver Dam in the future, and it can be summarized as follows. We're a small town with a clear identity where we celebrate our history and the water that we're known for. We're a place where arts, the environment, and industry don't compete, but commingle to make life here good. We envision a tidy and attractive city with human-scale infill, not high-rises, where we have standards for maintenance and where different land uses are made compatible and not becoming eyesores. We're a city that's connected and functions for all ages through walkable residential and commercial areas. We have a strong sense of community to keep people engaged and feeling safe, and where everyone has access to nature right out their door. There's affordable housing for different needs and life stages. We also envision the historic downtown remaining the core of our community and being reinforced with amenities that support community events, tourism, and our local economy. So a lot of us appreciate the small town qualities of Beaver Dam and notice that as it grows, it's getting a little bit more sprawled out, and it's creating more of a sense of disconnection in the city, making it harder for kids to navigate the city and making homes that used to be country homes not country homes anymore. So our first recommendation is to preserve the rural landscape around Beaver Dam, to grow in a way that makes our town better and not just more spread out. Some tools that we identified that could be used for this approach include establishing an urban growth boundary, which basically says we're going to set a radius outside of our current boundary and not develop beyond it. A second tool is a conservation overlay, which identifies where development can occur and has design stipulations. One example of a conservation design is shown here. On the left is the pre-existing rural landscape. In the center is a conventional sprawling type of development that we're used to seeing. and at right is an open space design that clusters new buildings and uses to create a small town effect while preserving the surrounding landscape. A third tool we identified is rural preservation zoning, which sets restrictions on land sales and parceling, and also another component that's included in rural preservation zoning is restricting the number of houses on a certain acreage. These tools can all be used in concert with each other, but they require working in partnership with the county and other local governments. Some of the benefits include preserving farmland, which supports our agricultural economy in Dodge County, our agricultural heritage, and as well tourism. It redirects money to the city center to redevelop vacant properties. This also saves public and private funds by reducing the cost of building and maintaining roads and other infrastructure. Our second recommendation is to organize the city by neighborhoods. They're the basic building blocks of community. They're an organizational tool. They help create identity and navigate the city. They also pave the way for the creation of neighborhood associations, which can help residents become organized and more powerful in working with the city to address problems. This map on the right is from the 2009 comprehensive plan, and they broke the city into districts, and that could be an example of the basis for defining neighborhoods within these larger areas. There's a lack of housing in general and an even greater lack of affordable housing in the area. And the term missing middle housing covers a range of options. Is that working? Sorry. In the center there, the colored houses that cities like Beaver Dam, cities across America need, but that aren't currently the focus of developers. So recommendation number 3 is to increase our residential density by updating our current zoning so that we can meet our housing demands while protecting our small town character. Our first suggestion is to update zoning to allow auxiliary dwelling units. ADUs are basically adding separate units within an existing building. They're pretty cost effective. It's a renovation project and it can help add affordable rentals. Excuse me. They can also help combat neglect because ADUs are typically owned by residents who live on site. They add density into existing neighborhoods without impacting the character of them. And they can support aging in place in our community, either through creating multi-generational homes, AKA the granny flat, or by adding rental income for people on fixed incomes. We'd also like to see our zoning updated to allow smaller lot sizes, smaller house sizes, and increased building heights in specific areas. These are some examples of the types of housing that we could create by updating our current rules. We would also like to encourage the city to take the lead in developing housing using city-owned land, similar to business parks. Recommendation number 4 is to protect our historic resources as we grow, renovating historic buildings for new uses and sensitively designing around places that we've identified as special to us. This recommendation puts us in compliance with State Statute 6223 that was passed in 1993 that requires cities that have properties listed on either the state or national Register of Historic Places create a preservation ordinance and a preservation commission that then define historic districts. Beaver Dam has properties listed at both the state and national level, but we do not have either a preservation ordinance or commission. This would also expand the current efforts of the downtown redevelopment guidelines, which are great, but they're not focused on preservation. They do not extend beyond this boundary, and they do not cover houses that are zoned R1, R2, or government buildings. Beaver Dam has a great supply and density of historic buildings. At right are some of the historic sites that were identified as of 2009 by the Wisconsin Historical Society Architecture and History Inventory. And there are certainly more resources that are important to our community. Historic resources create a charming aesthetic that builds community pride, draws, and can be leveraged for tourism. Heritage tourists have been identified as spending 50% more in local economies than other tourists. The Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation calls historic designation a useful development tool, but one that's frequently misunderstood. Historic districts help properties gain value faster, and it also makes them less vulnerable to volatility in the housing market. Historic districts have design guidelines and a review process that includes public comment, which leads to better and more cohesive design within an established neighborhood. Finally, large historic buildings can be reused, renovated to supply much needed housing. Our fifth recommendation is to allow mixed-use zoning in targeted areas of the city. Mixed-use zoning integrates residential and commercial uses to create a walkable village-style community. Because it is flexible, it supports smaller infill development projects and incremental development of an area over time that responds to changes in the market. We suggest it as a tool to redevelop blighted manufacturing areas as transition zones, such as along Madison Street and North Spring Street. At right are two more examples of locations that could benefit from multi-use zoning to transition between residential neighborhoods and industrial areas. And at left is an example, another example of what a mixed-use development can look like. This example is from Menominee Falls. Recommendation number 6 is what we're calling the BD connector. We envision a non-motorized transit corridor that loops around the city. At right is a sketch showing how it could connect our city neighborhoods and key locations around Beaver Dam, starting at the Gold Star Trailhead at Votech Park, looping north towards Edgewater Park, and back down south through the downtown to the possible new middle school location and future residential development south of 151. Here are some examples of similar projects from Atlanta and Fond du Lac. The BD connector could benefit the city by promoting tourism, connecting neighborhoods safely for kids, providing 4 seasons of free outdoor recreation for residents, and possibly guiding redevelopment along the corridor as it has in Atlanta. Recommendation number 7 is another big picture idea to reinforce our downtown as a tourist and community destination. We recommend adding a park adjacent to the Watermark building and expanding the existing Rotary Riverwalk. This is an ideal location to support Watermark classes, provide a place for community events like the Fall Fest, Holiday Parade, arts events, as well as providing a space for the farmers market. It would also provide a much needed green space for new residential development occurring downtown. We would like the existing Riverwalk to connect west to Cotton Mill Park and extend south through the river floodplain to the edge of the city with a small parking area provided on Center Street. Other cities such as Naperville, Illinois have turned their downtown rivers into a city amenity and tourist attraction. The same has been done in Winooski, Vermont, which is a town similar in mill industry history and size to Beaver Dam. There was a lot of concerns expressed to our committee about the city's appearance related to residential properties, commercial areas, and vacant properties in the city. So recommendation number 8 is to beautify Beaver Dam. For residential properties, we suggest a community fund to assist eligible homeowners pay for the cost of improvements that would get recouped at the sale of the house. We would also like to create tighter property maintenance rules and enforcement to help prevent deterioration, particularly for rentals with absentee owners. Along commercial corridors, we suggest creating design guidelines to improve their appearance. These can address things like standardizing signage, moving the majority of parking to the rear of buildings, adding sidewalks, and requiring trees and planting strips along the street and parking lot perimeters. Also, as our city has grown, things that used to be on the outskirts are now being enveloped and surrounded by incompatible uses, creating what some people have called eyesores. So we can be proactive for future growth, not only by creating the commercial zone design guidelines, but updating our ordinances for industrial and manufacturing zones to require things like interior loading bays and screening plantings in their design. We would also like the city to create some tools to deal with the long-term vacant buildings that we have. The benefits of beautifying Beaver Dam range from attracting tourism and investment in our community to improving public safety. Recommendation number 9 is to encourage commercial infill through redeveloping parking areas as outlots. The Dunkin' Donuts and the Piggly Wiggly parking lot is a great example of what we'd like to see more of to help fight sprawl. Recommendation number 10 is to adopt a complete streets policy. Complete streets are designed to be safe for pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and transit riders of all ages and abilities. Then they use a variety of different strategies. In addition to increased safety, a study of 37 complete streets projects across the country found they provided economic benefits as well, including increased employment levels, increased property values, and increased private sector investment along the complete streets projects. We have identified 3 areas that we think are good candidates for complete streets projects. They're shown in yellow here. They're primary corridors that connect residential areas to commercial areas and are frequented by students and other pedestrians. These locations would also provide great gateways to the city. Recommendation number 11 is Live Our City logo. We can do this by encouraging an overall greener and more cost-effective approach to business and life. At a citywide level, we'd like to see more green infrastructure to manage water. Green infrastructure is often cheaper than conventional water management strategies and provides other benefits like improved lake and river water quality. Green infrastructure can be incentivized, such as rebates for homeowners who install rain gardens on their property, or required, such as stormwater ponds for new development. Second, we would like to see more street trees to help combat the urban heat island effect and associated cost of cooling our homes, and also to make our sidewalks more pleasant to walk on in the heat of the summer. Third, we'd like to suggest updating our zoning to allow for new types of businesses, such as urban farming and commercial composting facilities. Lastly, living our logo means making sure that we have a strong open space plan, that we add natural areas for ecosystem services and recreation, that all residents have access to parks, that parks are protected from development pressure through new zoning, and that new multifamily developments are required to provide usable outdoor space to improve the quality of life for all residents. Thank you for your attention.
Here's some of our committee members that helped us kick this off. Nancy told some of the people are here, so I appreciate them, their input and dedicating time like we did, or I did, I guess, as a group. It was a great experience and really enjoyed working with our group and appreciate their efforts helping us put this together. So kind of our vision and as it relates to our quality of life, we envision an innovative, inclusive, and interconnected system of parks, trails, and recreation for all citizens and visitors of Beaver Dam. Furthermore, we were committed to providing a comprehensive system of quality open space, recreation facilities for active and passive recreation, while efficiently and responsibly offering programs, activities, and events that enhance the quality of life of citizens and visitors on social, mental, and physical levels. We kind of had 5 core guiding principles that we wanted to use to help guide our thoughts. They, I guess, revolved around conservation, inclusiveness, connectivity, stewardship, and quality of life. Some of our guiding principles we wanted to focus on creating incentives to retain and attract visitors to our community. We wanted to provide excellent diversified park and open spaces, provide a citywide system of on and off street trails and corridors. We wanted to promote, coordinate, facilitate, and provide recreational programs. We wanted to use effective and innovative funding methods to help promote these things. We wanted to promote economic development. We wanted to coordinate and forge partnerships by fostering opportunities for citywide collaboration. And finally, we wanted to encourage Beaver Dam residents and developers in the planning, stewardship, and programming of park and recreational resources. So as part of our guiding principles, we kind of looked at some initial thoughts and ideas as our larger group, and these are kind of the things that we used to help guide some of our thoughts. We came up with 6 subgroups as it relates to quality of life, revolving around passive recreation, active recreation, safe biking and walking, the environment, water quality and sustainability, Beaver Dam Lake and the river, and culture. So we're going to take a look at each of these a little bit individually. Passive recreation as it relates to kind of a minimal stress on a site or area resource. It does not involve physical or strenuous activities. Allows us to stay mentally alert, and it's an observation of an action typically. So here's some examples of some passive recreation as it relates to fishing and just outdoor as it relates to passive recreation, we kind of took a deeper dive into two larger community parks that are part of the Beaver Dam area. One of them being Edgewater Park. It's almost 160 acres in size. It's considered a community park. It's part of the master plan report that was put together back in 2023 that outlined some park improvements that would be necessary, I guess would be a good idea to help enhance Edgewater Park. So here's an overview of that plan. There's a specific, URL that's identified for more information if you guys are interested in taking a look at the plan specifically. So as part of this master plan report, there were some recommendations that came out of that initially based on surveys that were given to the local citizens. And as part of that, they revolved around more seating and picnic areas, updated restrooms, not only at Edgewater Park, but just parks in general. Some fenced-in dog agility areas, a fitness area, and some looped walking trails as it relates to this larger area that could be improved to make it more usable for the citizens of Beaver Dam and visitors alike. So our second biggest park in Beaver Dam is Crystal Lake Park. I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but Edgewater Park and Crystal Lake Park actually make up 70% of the total park space within the city. So both of these resources are extremely important, for recreational activities for our citizens and visitors. Here's a kind of another overview of Crystal Lake Park as a whole. As part of that master plan report that was developed, some of the recommendations that came out of there was looking for a cleaner beach and water area, updating some of the accessible playgrounds, some looped walking paths with the existing paths they currently have, some tennis and pickleball courts, a dog swimming area, paddle boats, updated beach house that would be more inclusive to using more activities in different times of the year, and gardens and patio area. The second kind of active area that we looked at was active recreation. So active recreation typically revolves around some type of physical exertion. It requires equipment and taking place at a prescribed place. It's typically, like I said, a physical exertion and a skill is the primary focus. So these are some of the they consider these neighborhood parks in the city, which are typically used for active recreation. So some of our recommendations looked at potentially a boathouse and a dock area for rowing and some type of water activities. Some park that would be adjacent, like Tahoe Park or some other park, would be a good place for this type of improvement. Again, the waterfront boathouse concept where we can include sailing, rowing, canoeing, kayaking, ice boating, skating, some type of rental area for citizens to rent different types of equipment to use the lake for different types of recreational activities would be maybe a good improvement. Another recommendation is a sports complex. Would be a multi-use type area, not only for baseball and softball and pickleball and soccer and football and other types of recreational activities, but having a central area that where people can come to and exercise and also bring economic, things to the community would be a good improvement. A lot of communities have gone to multiplexes, which again is just kind of a multi-type of use with multiple different types of sporting types of activities that again, provide a good central location for a variety of different activities. Or maybe we look at some of the existing parks and maybe redesign some of them and reconfigure them to make them more usable for different types of uses. I know we all love trees, as well, and we're a trees community, but reorganizing a few things to make it a little more usable may be something that we could consider as well. Another recommendation is maybe a new community park where we can integrate some of these new ideas and things that we're looking at doing in the community, where we can again provide a common space for people to park and use these different types of areas. Another recommendation is an outdoor pool. This goes back to a lot of the original plans that we've discussed for many years within this community. It took us a long time to get to the splash pad, which is a great amenity that's been added to the community. But again, having a type of pool for older adults and older teens would be a great addition as well. Indoor recreation was another recommendation. We don't have a lot of places to do indoor recreation. Obviously, with living in northern climates, winter and those types of times of the year provide a challenging, and having a place to do that with indoor playgrounds, recreational areas, to do those types of things indoors would be a great addition as well. Some other things that are kind of some other communities have done: an aqua park with some type of floating, different types of amenities to exercise on. Fitness or fitness courts, which is another type of thing where you have these different exercise pieces of apparatus that are along different corridors for walking and things like that, that people can use when they're out, I guess, enjoying the recreational things that we do have in this community. So why do we want to do this? I guess the one big thing is it helps improve the local tax base and increases property values. One of the top 3 reasons businesses cite in relocation decisions is a number of studies is the quality of parks and recreation that are offered within a community for the people that live there. It provides significant indirect revenues, and it provides a variety of economic activity to the community. Our third area that we looked at was safe biking and walking. We looked at a kind of a general starting location or information like Swan City Park or Edgewater Park or Tahoe Park that would have some type of overview map and provide maps for people to pick up and understand where these different routes go through the community. Obviously, the routes would connect community points of interest. That's obviously a great way to exercise. Again, connecting Beaver Dam Lake to the businesses through a river walk, and also connecting Cotton Mill Park to the downtown area. So here's a couple of different maps that currently exist within the community. I just want to see actually a show of hands. How many people have seen these before? Okay, and that's kind of how I felt too. When we started looking at this process, I didn't really realize there was a map that actually existed, but there is a map that exists, and there are biking and walking trails that are currently do exist within the community, but we don't really have a good way of getting that information to people, not only our citizens that live here, but also residents and visitors that do come here. So we looked at looking at adding some additional signage, again, at having some type of location where you can drop your bikes off, pick up a map. Have a different, maybe a bike rental area, and then some additional signage so that, based on these routes, just like we have obviously signs for streets, we have some type of colored mapping and or symbols that would mark these different areas so that people know where to go. Obviously, it's easy to read a map and see where you're kind of going, but having some type of visual marker along the way would be very beneficial. Again, kind of hitting on the Riverwalk idea, connecting something from the, Cotton Mill Park down to the southern part of town, connecting some type of biking, walking trail along 151 from the southern part of the community to the northern part, and providing some type of safe passage over to, the east side of Highway 151 would be very beneficial as well. Our fourth kind of area that we looked at was the environment, water quality, and sustainability. There's a very active variety of active groups within Dodge County that are very, take this, work very seriously. The Dodge County Healthy Soil and Healthy Waters has been very active in Dodge County to make sure that we continue to preserve our farmland. Some of the recommendations that came out of that obviously is continued conservation, making sure that we're stabilizing these agricultural areas that are adjacent to water to protect our river and our lake. And most importantly, we want to continue to support these different groups within the community. They've done a great job so far in identifying needs and things that need to be addressed, and we want to continue to support these different groups so that they can do their work. Our fifth part that we looked at was Beaver Dam Lake and the river. And one of the big things is maintaining a healthy Beaver Dam Lake and river is essential to maintaining a healthy Beaver Dam. I guess it's very important to the tax base. It's important to local fish, wildlife, and the local ecosystem. It provides recreational activities for citizens and visitors alike. And again, it provides a lot of beneficial economic activity to Beaver Dam. So here are some pictures of the river and the lake, and it's a great asset that we do have as citizens of this community. Beaver Dam Lake can be very challenging based on the size. It's only 6,700 acres, which is about 10.5 square miles. So it's a very large lake. It's 30.5 miles long. And more challenging than not is the amount of land cover that's farmland in Dodge County. 70.5% of the land use within, or I guess farmland is used for farmland within Dodge County. Beaver Dam Lake is considered an impaired water of the state of Wisconsin, meaning that total phosphorus, sediment, and total suspended solids are problematic within the ecosystem. So making sure that we are addressing phosphorus runoff and sediment and total suspended solids is very important so that we can continue to make improvements to our lake and keep it protected. Culture was our last area that we looked at, focusing on theater, music, film, and music or visual arts. Beaver Dam has hosted a variety of different festivals and fairs, and we want to continue to support these efforts. I think we've done a really great job to enhance these types of things within the community, and we should continue to support those things that have helped make this both indoor and outdoor venues for these types of activities. So here's just some pictures and things that currently exist, and then having some type of concert area might be a good recommendation, to have those types of areas to have areas for people to, I guess, commingle and work together. So community support, and as part of this comprehensive outdoor recreational plan, what can we do? Some of the things that were identified in that plan based on the surveys that people talked about was playgrounds, picnic facilities, trails, band shells and concerts, boating facilities, and fishing. The one thing that was quite interesting based on this work, only 30% of the respondents indicated that the city's current variety of recreational programs met their needs. So obviously there's a gap there that we can obviously do to help improve that from 30%. 52.3% of respondents said they would support spending more money to cover the cost of installing new parks and facilities or equipment. So as part of this community support, we recommend that the city require residential and commercial developments that dedicate parkland to provide recreational facilities. So as part of the planning process and as these people come forward with ideas, we recommend the city set aside or require these residential and commercial developments to dedicate parkland or provide recreational facilities as part of their overall plan. So again, here's just some of the funding things that are going to come to mind initially. And as a parting word, I guess, or quote, proximity to parks, recreation, open space areas is a factor for quality of life, which is important for retaining existing residents and attracting new residents. And we feel that was very important as our groups. That's it.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the subcommittee that I worked with, all of the different members. We were brand new to each other and had to learn each other, and many of us were new to the City of Beaver Dam, so it was quite an experience, and I greatly enjoyed working together with them all. So our goal was to look at diversified living, and our model was that diversified living creates a vibrant community. Our focus was to identify different types of housing in the city and possibly look for other alternative types of housing that might help. So our topic areas came out. We looked at emergency transitional housing, permanent housing, housing in the downtown area, alternative housing, and last but not least, affordable housing. So we wanted, our goal was to make sure that we could look at a wide range of different types of diverse housing while preserving the historical values of the city and the properties, of course, and other types of older housing. First of all, we looked at emergency housing, and we wanted to make sure that we could look at matters that were addressing unhoused individuals in the city. What we found was that between 2018 and 22, there was about 35 people who were not housed in the city. And the ones that were housed were primarily women and children. Although there were men that were housed here also, it was done by giving them vouchers that were quite expensive, and that we would send them off to different hotels in the area. And so to remedy that situation, finally in this year, they purchased a new house, and so now we have housing for women and children as well as for men. We then took a peek at transitional housing, housing for folks that may have special needs and need time to sort of get more stabilized before moving on to permanent housing, as well as people that may have lower income and need a transitional period to gain more money to move into permanent housing. So what we found was that there was one transitional living facility here in Beaver Dam, a sober living facility. And in terms of any additional types of special needs housing, we didn't feel that there was a need for it at this time. However, in terms of economics or people that needed to have more money to move into permanent housing, we thought that there was a great need for what we call workforce transitional housing. And so what is workforce transitional housing? It's basically housing for folks who are earning an income that is between 60 and 120% of the area median income. So the area median income, in most of our statistics were taken from 2022. We went through a whole bunch of different research papers and looked at that. The area median income is around $66,000. And so looking at the range, then it would be somewhere between $39,000 and $78,000. It would include more than just folks that are working in industries. It would be everybody that would fall out in that different kind of range. Oftentimes workers do not qualify for low-income housing, some oftentimes referred to as Section 8 housing. You've heard of that type of housing. So what these endeavors are, the workforce housing is an endeavor between the city or within the city and for developers as well as for the industries in the area. They all three work together to try to get to build a transitional housing for people that need some time to save up enough money to move into permanent housing. There are many different examples of this around the nation. There's one right here that's just starting up in Portage, Wisconsin. It's a $40 million project. It's going to be having around 300 units of housing available that could house up to 700 people. So it is something that is going on, and there's lots of models to take a look at in terms of developing workforce housing. So in terms of then transitional housing, our recommendations were to perhaps create dedicated housing trust funds, to look at repurposing land and other retail areas that may be used, adopt inclusionary zoning areas so that we can use those areas, create community land trusts, and perhaps update different codes to encourage development. So to recap on the emergency housing, as far as we were concerned, the city and the different community partners have adequately addressed the emergency housing for unhoused persons. And that's a picture of the administrative building on South Spring Street where people can go for services. So some of our recommendations were to explore funding sources to sustain emergency housing, make sure to develop formalized agreements with our partners, and to keep track of the statistics of people that are unhoused so that we can plan accordingly into the future. There's going to be lots of lists of different community partners as well as different funding sources, and I'm going to sort of skip through those so that you can we keep on with the time. We then took a look at permanent housing, and our goal here was to see what housing was available in the city of Beaver Dam and make any kind of recommendations. We found in 2022 the population was about 16,500 individuals, and estimated housing units, we had about 7,800 housing units, and 7,300 of them were occupied. So as you can see, there was not very much housing left. So in fact, About 60% of the housing was owner occupied, and about 40% of it was renter occupied. And of that number, about 6% of it was classified as vacant, which included rentals and for sale units, seasonal units, abandoned properties, and so on. Let me go back for a moment. So as you can see, the rentals were about the only thing that was left available in that small 6%, and it was a very, very small amount. So basically, we had no housing available. Before 1970, there was about 60% owner-occupied single-family houses, and then about 40% of the units were renter-occupied units. So they're only about 54 years old, and so we want to certainly preserve those, but also look at other types of housing into the future. Housing costs in 2022. The median household income was about $66,000 at that time, and however, the median home value to purchase a home was about $154,000. So you can see that's quite a big difference. And the average gross rent at the time was about $900 a month, and that has increased quite a bit even since 2022. So, looking at the whole county, all of Dodge County, Beaver Dam, in fact, has a higher cost burden for housing. Housing availability as of in May now 2024, skipping from 2022, we found that there was about, this is just a snapshot in time, of course, but when we looked at it, we saw only 26 rental units available, and there are only 20 properties for sale, and only 14 land lots that were for sale. So you can see that's hardly nothing in a city of this size. And so, so Beaver Dam is about 100% housing occupied. That's amazing, isn't it? So that's our conclusion there. So we need more affordable permanent living, permanent housing alternatives, and we need more, where we were recommending affordable transitional workforce housing, that it be a consideration. So that could happen by, utilizing old empty warehouses or empty buildings that are properties that have not been used for a long period of time. The workforce in Beaver Dam is increasing faster than the housing that's available, especially as new industries keep coming in and people do not have a place to live. Zoning maps, these are available out on the front table, and also, of course, look in your QR form, QR codes, and it'll have all of these different charts for you. What these red spots are where there's zoning for current residential housing. We then took a quick peek at downtown, more specifically at Front Street, the 2 blocks of Front Street, going from Spring Street over to Beaver Street, Madison area, and Madison Street, and we wanted to see if there was any housing on the upper floors of those commercial buildings. And we found that there were about 45 different businesses in that area. 7 of the buildings were vacant, and there were about 10 rental units, with approximately 15 tenants living in that area. Several of the buildings had absentee landlords, as even those that were occupied, and there were some vacant buildings that had absentee landlords. Oftentimes, the second floors, instead of apartments, they were used simply for storage, and there was limited parking in the area. So, just in that little area, in that 2-block area, there was very, very limited parking. very, very limited housing available above the commercial buildings. As you know, they're also building a new development on South Spring Street, which is a couple blocks south of Front Street, across from the Watermark, from the community center. However, those are condominiums that are for sale, and they will be selling for probably around $250,000 to $300,000 a piece. And it's only 24 units. So as you can see, that's not going to be affordable housing very much. So a long list of recommendations is to reactivate the Community Housing Authority of Beaver Dam. There is a committee of such. However, it's sort of dormant at this moment, and we're hoping to get it more activated. Also to inform developers about what the different city ordinances are and what's available and what's going on here, and to possibly review any kind of restrictive regulations in terms of developing housing, and establish maybe property maintenance codes to ensure that buildings stay up to par. We could also use community development grants to encourage developers to develop more housing, establish a coalition of community partners, find the absentee landlords if we possibly can, and get them to start working on some of the vacant buildings that are there, and also to upgrade some of the other buildings. So then we took a look at what we call alternative housing options. And one of them was called Senior Life Care Continuum Communities, sometimes referred to as continuing care retirement communities. Another is cooperative housing or community cooperatives. And a third was manufactured housing or prefabbed housing. So with the Senior Life Care Continuum Communities, we wanted to explore what kind of additional options for older adults as they age here in the city. And what we found was that currently Beaver Dam has 24 senior living facilities. However, they are sort of spread out all over the place. Some are for independent living, some are for assisted living, and some are for memory care living. So if people are aging, they would have to move from place to place to place to place as they go along that continuum. So our recommendation was to consider building senior life care continuums so that people would not have to move all over the place. There are no senior life care continuums currently in Beaver Dam. So looking at a housing needs assessment, we found that there was, by 2027, that there would be an increase of about 10% of the number of individuals that are 65 and older who are going to need that type of housing in the city of Beaver Dam. And of course, if the folks are aging that rapidly, there would be a large housing gap for aging older adults. So what does the Senior Life Care Continuum offer? It offers independent living, it offers assisted living, and ultimately maybe memory care for people who may be having loss of memory dementia. Some communities also offer respite care and skilled nursing along with this type of housing. What are the benefits? Obviously, people can stay in place. They don't have to keep running all over the place looking for different types of housing and moving from place to place. They would simply stay in that big complex and move from one part of it to the next. There would be health care on site, as well as a whole host of other types of amenities that would be available to the folks. Some of these particular communities do require an endowment payment. It's sort of like a guarantee that you're going to get into that type of housing and stay there. Obviously, there's an entrance fee and an increase in fees as you go along through this process in the continuum. Some of them accept long-term care insurance policies as well as Medicaid to help supplement. So our recommendations are to try to attract commercial developers and private investors by using funding and tax credits, establish opportunity zones, and other types of tax credits. So they are all over the place. In fact, we have one in Naperville, Illinois, called Monarch Landing. There's one in Madison called the Coventry Village. And then there's a whole group of them under Capri Communities, one in Menominee Falls, one in Milwaukee, one in Madison. And then we looked at cooperative housing communities. So what those are options that are different than buying a single-family home or a condominium or even renting an apartment. It's a cooperative that is sort of basically a nonprofit corporation where there's a board of directors and the residents become the have individual shares within how the property is going to be operated. There are no community or cooperative housing communities currently in Beaver Dam. The benefits of having such would be, of course, that it'd be more affordable because it would be controlled by the residents that operate the nonprofit, that operate the cooperative housing. And if you sold your particular piece, obviously there would be financial gains as things continue on. And it's a joint venture. Everybody would have control over it and work together on the matter. On the far left, you can see there's one, it's an example of several different units there. And then on the far right is a house that was repurposed, a large single-family house, and turned into a cooperative. We then looked at manufactured housing, and we found, again, going back to the 2022 statistics, that the construction costs started at around $500,000 for a brand new home. A lot of money. However, if you looked at a manufactured house, you could get one for about $128,000. So that's a significant difference. This type of housing was referred to as mobile homes or trailer homes or trailers. You often thought of it in those types of things as just temporary housing in a mobile home. However, manufactured housing since 1970, they have now changed it and called it manufactured homes, and it is regulated by federal regulations, Housing and Urban Development. And they're not limited to just mobile housing parks anymore. You can now take a manufactured home and set it up any place in any of the residential areas that are zoned for residential. So, also, the Wisconsin Housing Alliance has set guidelines, so there's all kinds of guidelines. You can't just grab a manufactured home and put it any place you want to do it. There are requirements for all of that. Currently, there are 3 parks, housing parks in Beaver Dam area that do accommodate manufactured homes, as well as RVs and mobile homes and such. And with that,
so our committee members were Gerald Lindy, me, Salim Mohammed, Edina Ruder, and Mike Zimmer. So the quote that we chose was, "Economics is not about goods and services. It's about human choice and action." We used that as sort of a tenet as we were considering what our recommendations would be. Our values: we are committed to supporting diversified businesses. We appreciating environmentally sound natural resources as a piece of the community, providing affordable housing, maintaining a safe and welcoming community. And the vision statement, I'm not going to read word for word. Essentially, it's to revisit the most successful time in Beaver Dam's history: diverse businesses, manufacturing, a thriving downtown, robust use of lakes and parks for recreation. The guiding principles we used as touchstones were striving to maximize the value per acre by balancing manufacturing and service industries with affordable housing. We'd love to leverage current tax incremental districts, a TID, by laying out a vision to mitigate environmental concerns and attract new development. We want some new, fresh industry to come. We'll continue to create TIDs to convert underutilized city properties into tax revenue opportunities. We'll promote the lake and the river. We'll attract other economic recreational draws utilizing location and facilities. We'll continue to support collaboration with various interested parties such as tourism, Chamber of Commerce, Lake and Marine Park, University of Wisconsin, to assist small business incubation. And so we found that there were about 3 tenets that were useful in considering the impacts of economic prosperity for our community. So this model is essentially advancing economic development priorities, which is engaged with small business support, and then also using tourism and promoting recreation as actions. This model needs to be supported with marketing, collaboration, inspiration, and innovation. And so really I kind of distilled our recommendations into ours. We need retention, we need recruitment, we need resources, reinvestment in the city, and we need to revitalize existing buildings. So to advance economic development priorities, we need to explore some of those mixed-use properties for athletic tournaments, promoting tourism, local businesses, the additional amenities of bike trails, parks, athletic centers, sporting events, and exploring water-related recreation. I think a carp fishing tournament would be especially useful for improving the lake and promoting tourism. I know it seems hilarious, doesn't it? But for real, it would serve a great purpose. It's just an example of one of the ways to promote Beaver Dam as a hub of activity and as a destination to come where there's always something fun going on. Some of the advanced economic development priorities involve amending and utilizing current TID districts, creating a vision for existing opportunities, identifying city contributions for amenities or site preparations, identifying potential developments, reinvesting in existing buildings to convert to housing, potentially utilizing WIDA resources. So in order to raise or blight something without increasing the taxes, we'd really need to find and develop a new space within that tax incremental district. We think that that's a great plan. There's a couple different spots that we think would be great, that North Spring Street opportunity, and then the South Madison Street, which in some places is actually town of Beaver Dam. One of the other areas that we think would be super useful would be utilizing downtown spaces and encouraging small businesses. So essentially, how do we help incubate these small businesses to fill up buildings downtown that are currently vacant and underutilized? So we feel that existing collaborators like the Lake District, the Lake Association, the Beaver Dam Area Development Corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, Dodge County Tourism, and then essentially a business improvement district would be useful opportunities for encouraging small business in Beaver Dam. So almost like a shared services model would be really useful so that they aren't just alone and they have plenty of support and resources in order to flourish. So sort of an opportunity to coordinate, focus, and collaborate. We do think that this could be an opportunity to be sort of a convener and coordinator. A collaborator would be a potential part-time position for the city. So we also thought promoting recreation and generating tourism would be areas that could help support the economy. This could include a downtown focus, so essentially finding some ways for there to be lodging. Someone had mentioned a boutique hotel downtown, that would be kind of fun. An art district, essentially events to help make it a destination. Also special events, revenue generators, so the bike paths, recreational opportunities, athletic tournaments, and then again, lake events, like a regatta or a carp fishing tournament. And then lake focus, unique to Beaver Dam. That could be a harbor, it could be water sport opportunities, but it could also be like a resort hotel or a conference center. There we go.
We're downtown revitalization. Our vision statement is to promote continued growth in the downtown district. We wanted to show you smiling faces at this point in the presentation. These are all people from downtown. These are people who have seen the wonderful things that have been done to our community through this cap. And I can't tell the rest of that joke. All right. Here's our quote from that great city planner, Ed McMahon. I told him, I have this vision where we're worried about how we're going to, pay for this. Well, my vision is that the ghost of Ed McMahon appears on Spring Street and Front Street with a bunch of balloons and a huge check, multi-million-dollar check from Publishers Clearinghouse. We may have already won. Our motto is meet me downtown. Our value statement, you can read. We wanted to commend those who, over the years, have really maintained the downtown area. And also want to thank those who, and I think we can all agree, that in the past few years, the downtown has just seen a huge revitalization, and we hope that that continues. But the crux of our position is that we have a Highway 33 dilemma. Trucks are constantly going in and out of our front street, making it almost impossible to speak, to travel. It's causing damage to the structures. If you're inside one of the front street stores, and those trucks go by, you can actually see those windows shake, and it kicks up dust. So I just decided, for the heck of it, to just go down there, just on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and I sat on that little bench that's on Front Street, and this is what happened between 3 o'clock and 3:15. And if you're ever down there and you go and you're talking to someone, you have to stop talking to them. It is so loud. It creates an echo chamber. So 3 huge semi-trucks went by, and as I was walking to my car, a 4th one came the other way. And that happened in just 15 minutes. And so you say, well, Roger, wasn't it like that always? Well, no, it wasn't. From 1880 to the 1980s, we had railroad service, and there was no semi-truck action whatsoever. And that, of course, was the heyday of the downtown area. It's just been like the past 40 years that we've really had this kind of Highway 33 dilemma. So what's our solution? A possibility is to relocate Highway 33. I know it sounds crazy, but it's been done in other areas. It's been done in, it's been done in Oconomowoc, Hortonville, and Verona. And I just want to tell you that technically it's being done already. If you go to Google Directions, if you go to your TomTom, your Garmin, your Magellan, if you put in there, I want to go from Horicon to Fox Lake, they're going to take you this way. They're not going to take you through downtown. So the solution is to take it from, this is 33, take it north on 151, and then either go down Industrial Drive, down County B, or go all the way to the Fox Lake exit, which is probably the better one. But there is a downside. I contacted Mark Bourne's, Representative Mark Bourne's office, and I can just tell you that, over the telephone, I could kind of hear their eyes like rolling up into their heads. But it's not impossible. For these ones that were done in Oconomowoc, Verona, they had to buy land, build the highway bypass around the city. But like I said, in our situation, it's already there. And of course, the question becomes, well, what do we do about Craft and Kirsch Foundry. Well, a possible solution, which I think is actually a better one than having them go right downtown, is to have them go south on 151 and then come in Spring down Cooper down Center. That is a less residential area. And another possibility is for them to go all the way down and come down Madison. And for those semis, if you live on Madison or if you've been on Madison, the semis that are actually coming north on 151 to downtown Beaver Dam come down Madison Street anyway. And that again is a less residential area than Park Avenue and North Center Street. And if we can do that, then we have so many options possible for the downtown Front Street 100 block. We could actually close it down. We could make it a one-way street. There are about approximately 4.5 lanes there. What we would advise is make it like a plaza, similar to what you see here. Extend those sidewalks out. Make it a much more green area, almost a park-like area, like a State Street Mall type thing. You could another possibility is to eliminate one of the parking lanes on one of the sides of the streets. Of course, this could cause a fight between owners of buildings on one side of Front Street and the other side. But I'm in favor of a cage match, winner take all. And so we'd also like to see better signage also. That's basically the signage that you have now. And it's very hard to read, very difficult. It's small. And someone who's riding in a car is not going to be able to read that and continue on in a safe fashion. Also, if you extend those streets, you can now use kiosks within the street. I should tell you that when I was actually taking that film of those trucks going by, I was on that bench and I just had my feet out a little ways. Just a little ways. And a couple came by and I had to pull my feet in to let them go by. Now we're eliminating some parking. So a possible solution would be a parking structure. And this would be the CP Plaza, behind the CP Plaza. This picture right here was taken on a Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, and that parking lot is almost full. You're up.
Okay. The one thing that we've had in Beaver Dam in the past is preservation guidelines. We've got some pretty historic buildings downtown, and we want to make sure that the owners do right by the buildings and right by the community. So we've had historic preservation guidelines in the past. Still, we've got to keep diligent about that because a lot of the things that were improved in the past or the years since then have been grandfathered, which means that you can just replace the plastic over the fluorescent tubes and not really improve your building at all. So there have been a lot of sort of sins committed on the basis of what's cost effective. A lot of things like this building in particular, with the arched window tops, what you'll see a lot of, and a great travesty, is that they'll put some plywood there and put the cheapest window they can find in that opening, which is hideous. So we're hoping that by having some guidelines, we can cover things like signage, whatever they're doing to the front, make sure it's appropriate, some aesthetic things as far as gooseneck lighting, which I think they've got those signs sticking out and then lighting that shines just on the sign. Street and signage lighting, window replacement, light pole banners, street plantings and pots, all those things enhance downtown and make it look pretty good.
This is just an example of why we're in favor of guidelines. Right now, in downtown Beaver Dam, there are 3 different styles of street lighting. And we, of course, would like to see that come under just one umbrella and be one. And, of course, we favor this one because it gives you just that homey type feeling. The facade, again, we'd like to see a great effort made, and again, a great effort has been made in these past few years, but to continue that, to have facade restoration through grants. It should be noted that there are some great guidelines in the City of Beaver Dam Design Review Guidelines, but that was made specifically relating to the granting of grants. So it really doesn't cover other buildings that do not apply for the grants. But those guidelines are on the Beaver Dam website, City of Beaver Dam website, and they're very good. And if you have any kind of interest, you should really look into that. Now, I just walked the streets, and I found 12 storefronts that looked unoccupied. At least their front windows were not being utilized. I talked to Chamber of Commerce, Tracy Probst, and she told me, well, they're actually being used, but most of them are being used for storage, which isn't exactly an excellent use of downtown storefronts. But we thought if we could just contact those owners and ask if we could somehow put displays in those windows, that it would add to the atmosphere of downtown, and maybe some other stores might be interested in coming down there. Did you want to talk about stores that we would like to see downtown? Like a shoe store?
Oh, sure. We did a survey and tried to determine what we want in downtown Beaver Dam. And retail is the biggest thing. We want all kinds of variety, and shoe store was one of them. Just any kind of thing that caters to the market that we've got here, and clothing. I guess there's a whole lot of service downtown that uses those for doctors and offices and that sort of thing. The more activity downtown, the better, and we talked about housing and how that would transform downtown too.
We also really want to see more green space downtown, and we just thought it's a possibility. I don't know, this is Lake Mills. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's just a beautiful downtown. It's got a front street, and along the entire other side of Front Street is a beautiful park. We thought we could maybe do that, but on the back side of Front Street, and use the backs of the Front Street, do some nice paintings and lighting, and it would be a wonderful place for the people to meet downtown.
And they have a town square in Lake Mills, and they have one in Baraboo, and they're really great places to meet, for the community to meet. Now in Beaver Dam, when we want to have an event downtown, we have to close the highway. So I guess that's one way of doing it, but it would be nice to have a place for concerts. These are some of the ideas we investigated. There's the part Front and Center Streets across the river. That's the one, number 2. Number 1 is next to the nightclub there. Can't think of the name right now.
Well, next to the theater?
Yeah, theater on one side, the other. That's used during Best Dam Fest. So there is a band out there, and crowds can assemble there. And then perhaps something could be done with Ryan Contafio's Way, because that's not a highly utilized street, and maybe that could be a gathering place. We don't have a gathering place, and we'd like to have one.
Did you want to talk about this one?
Which one?
The amphitheater type?
Oh, okay. I thought he had squashed that. But my favorite is number 2. That is privately owned land right now. It's the river. It's right next to the old Euro place. It used to be a Euro restaurant, the former home of Rock and Docks Tavern. But that has kind of a natural amphitheater. It's all sloped down toward the window, toward the river. And one could have a band performing on one side of the river and listening on the other. So perhaps on the north, that would be the top of the 2, you would have the band on that side, and then the picnic area south of that would be where people could sit and picnic and have a wonderful time. So we need kind of an outdoor space just where we can get together bring people downtown. Beaver Dam's got a conundrum in that Swan City Park is a very popular gathering place, but it's not downtown. So it doesn't really help downtown to have something there and try to attract people downtown to spend money. So these are some options. One other thing that we were sort of pushing now is the establishment of a business improvement district. That is where every property is taxed based on the value of the property. If it's a $100,000 building, then that group, there would be a board that would sort of set the fee So if it's 100,000 and you want to do a dollar per, say 100,000, well, $100, does that work out? I'm not good at math. Anyhow, but it's a fee that would be determined by the group itself. And that fee is put in a fund that could be used for any number of purposes. It could be window washing, it could be supporting festivals, it could be marketing, it could be facade improvement, whatever that group would decide, that money would be used for that purpose. So we're working on getting that passed.
And almost every other city in the state of Wisconsin has a bid district. We are one of the few that does not.
Yeah, and it's something that we've got great growth in downtown, great development, but is it sustainable? We're thinking that if they get together marketing as a destination, that could have a huge impact on the longevity of the places that are there now.
Okay, you've read it. Continued construction in the downtown area. Others have talked about it, so. And continued support of the many activities that are taking place downtown, and hopefully many more that will be done in the future. We're done.
All right, I think it's time for a seventh inning stretch if everybody wants to just wiggle around a little bit and get moving. We're almost there. So we are community connectivity. We had 4 solid members of the team and couldn't have done it without each one of those people. So we were asked to come up with infrastructure recommendations for which we have no special qualifications. So we base these on a community survey and as well as our own research. We took a practical approach of building on what we currently have because what we have is pretty good. I mean, you're all here, right? To give you the big ask up front, we propose doubling the investment in the maintenance and improvement of our current roads and infrastructure to better connect the people and places of Beaver Dam for the next 20 years. So we're thinking far ahead in the future. As Todd mentioned, you've heard overlapping ideas. That was mostly intentional because an investment in one group's ideas fulfills and supports many others at the same time. In the following slides, we'll propose all the things we could do with that investment that provides solutions to the feedback we received in this process. The following guidelines, which I'll let you read there, or guiding principles, and recommendations, we group together as pedestrian mobility, bicycle mobility, transit, and street and vehicular mobility. It's not going to drag out. We're community connectivity. We keep moving. We focused on the idea of intermodality, meaning all the ways we get to and from places and what connects our community together. We start with pedestrian recommendations. The map shows impacted areas, including lakeshore, parks, downtown, key intersections, and areas of new building projects. In 2019, a boardwalk was added to Edgewater Park, which is awesome if you haven't been there, to increase accessibility to the natural areas in Beaver Dam. So why not build on that idea by expanding the boardwalk along the lake? Cities nationwide have constructed boardwalks with well-known projects. You might know Horicon Marsh, and also Huntley Meadows in Alexandria, Virginia. Costs can be kept minimal if volunteer labor is used. We already have regional partners that could support this project, including the Beaver Dam Lake Improvement Association, Rock River Coalition, which just helped me create a rain barrel, the DNR Stewardship, and Friends and Grants program as well. This project would expand activities at the lake and provide safe natural walking routes in the city. The next recommendation, you've heard from a few different groups, and this is our take on it. We propose updating wayfinding signage around the city with a cohesive color and style, with additional icons or colors marking pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicle routes. Signage prevents people from getting lost when they're trying to find a new place, and it keeps them on the right track and feeling at ease, which we all need when we're driving. They can be placed in areas to design traffic and pedestrian routes and to minimize congestion and maximize safety. Well-marked routes encourage people to spend time in the city enjoying parks, restaurants, businesses, which we just heard a lot about with the downtown revitalization. The Wisconsin Department of Administration has grants for local projects just like these that could be used to cover some of this cost. So we think it's easier to add sidewalks and walking paths in the planning process rather than ask community members and businesses to install these features later, as I've learned by my want of sidewalks and my neighbors do not. We propose a requirement, or at least a guideline, for new construction to include walking and nature paths in the planning process, including improvements and connections to existing sidewalk infrastructure. The next section is bicycle mobility, with recommendations focused on the need for improved connectivity and making cycling safer. The map shows cycling routes in the city where we suggest marking and protecting bicycle lanes and adding bicycle repair stations around the city. As mentioned in the Creating Community presentation all the way at the beginning, we have the unique opportunity to build on the momentum and funding of the Gold Star Trail project that will connect Mayville to Beaver Dam at Votech Park, which is right over there. I have a poor sense of direction, which is why I need signage. Somewhere over there. In 2027, fingers crossed, and in doing so, connects us to Horicon Marsh and Wild Goose Trail. So great. Business leaders and families formed a project committee and are partnering with Dodge County and the Friends of Dodge County Parks to fund, plan, and build the trail. This trail allows safer biking and hiking between Dodge County communities, reducing car trips, as we currently drive to those trails to use them, and improves access to healthy lifestyle activities, recreation, and supports economic development as a regional tourism attraction. So why wouldn't we build on that momentum by planning for the connection in 2027 to a tremendous recreation and economic development project? We propose adding marked and protected bicycle lanes in the city as part of planned road maintenance. A national study on bicycle safety said that bicycle safety improvements result in a greater return on investment than other projects. For example, after just 2 streets in Minneapolis were converted to be more bicycle friendly, bike traffic increased by 43%. Total vehicle crashes decreased, and traffic efficiency was maintained. In addition to street markings, we recommend permanent and temporary protections, recognizing some streets may be too narrow to accommodate permanent bicycle infrastructure, but could accommodate seasonal routes. We should add bicycle repair stations as part of a comprehensive plan for bicycle infrastructure. These stations can be located in parks or in other high bike traffic areas, and they signal the community is welcoming to cyclists who may stop at some businesses for coffee or to buy something. There are numerous bicycle grant programs like the Community Sparks grants provided by the League of American Bicyclists that provide mini grants for communities to build up their cycling infrastructure, probably just enough to cover the installation of one of these. There are also federal grants for cycling infrastructure projects through organizations like People for Bikes. All right, I told you we'd keep moving. We're moving on to transit. So during the open house, this was an important issue that was supported by community members who spoke with us. Our recommendations include creating a seasonal pedestrian mall, trolley, and water taxi, in addition to enhancing rapid transit and taxi services in the city. The map shows some of the most popular places people visit in Beaver Dam. I'm just going to click through. I'm sure y'all know where those are. The first recommendation combines the 2 areas of pedestrian and bicycle mobility with transit. We recommend creating a seasonal pedestrian mall on South Spring Street between East Mill Street, which is Nunnatuck, and East Washington Street, but stopping before the mobile gas station because people need to get their gas. We already closed down downtown for events and festivals, and parking would be moved to the parking lots behind businesses or a new parking garage structure so they could temporarily expand in the street. The businesses, not the parking garage. The pedestrian mall, along with a trolley service, would encourage visitors to make a day of downtown visit. Trolley offers added attraction that can be used for events. Also, we had a trolley at my wedding last year. It was super fun. Here's a map of the proposed pedestrian mall area. This recommendation enhances many of the ideas that you'll hear around downtown revitalization from other groups, or you heard already. This is perhaps the wildest idea that made it into the presentation, but it supports recommendations from the Quality of Life group around rehabbing and using the lake as a focal point and resource in the community. It's a seasonal water taxi service that could connect lakeside parks in the summer and provide a unique attraction during festivals or the summer season. It just shouldn't run the same time as the water ski club performs. It could also be used to connect sides of the lake in a fixed route if there's demand for this service in partnership with neighboring communities. The number of small town public transit agencies has increased over the past 2 decades. Public transit can reduce the risk of road accidents, help reduce personal travel costs, and be an important force in supporting local economies by connecting residents, especially non-drivers, like my grandpa, with local businesses and job opportunities. Some of the recommendations, based on a current mass transit study in Beaver Dam, talking to city officials, and talking to the current taxi service provider, include expanding the number and variety of vehicles in the taxi fleet, expanding taxi service to 24 hours to accommodate third shift and school activities, and potentially adding or incentivizing rideshare options in the city. The current mass transit study will look at fixed route and flex route options, which we believe would fill a need in the community. These transit services must be subsidized, and there are existing federal subsidies through the Federal Transit Administration, which we already use to subsidize the services we do provide. All right, still with me? Yeah? Okay, great. The last section of our presentation will talk about street and vehicular mobility with recommendations like incorporating artwork, installing roundabouts, and planning for better pedestrian access over Highway 151. The map shows impacted areas, including a suggested 151 pedestrian overpass, proposed roundabout locations, and highlighting the downtown area as needing special focus due to our earlier recommendations. We want to build on the art community in Beaver Dam, as seen and supported in the painted postcards around the city, the Dodge County Center for the Arts, and Art on the Town local business. Art is a relatively low-cost, high-impact way to slow traffic and beautify the city, which I really love this graphic. I think that would be so cool if we could incorporate that. Local artists and artist communities can partner in these infrastructure projects around the downtown area, schools, and parks where there's high pedestrian traffic. The recommendation aligns with the Complete Streets U.S. Department of Transportation initiative that supports street designs that enable safe use and mobility for all users. This has been successful in places like St. Paul, Minnesota, who used one of these grants to pilot and fund their street improvements. Based on feedback from the community survey, we propose using roundabouts instead of traffic lights in certain problematic locations. Roundabouts provide a safer alternative to traditional intersections with a 90% reduction in fatal crashes, 90%. Significant reduction in injury crashes, and reduced pedestrian and bicycle crashes. We see this as being especially important at intersections like La Tapatia and Charlie Brown's, where Burnett Street intersects North Spring Street at an angle, making it difficult for cars to navigate blind spots in their crossing, myself included. They can be places for art installations or landscaping, beautiful and functional. And roundabouts can be used in the city or in neighborhoods where speeding is an issue. Our final slide is a recommendation, again supported by community feedback, in having safer pedestrian crossings over Highway 151. One of the proposed areas is East Industrial, which has potential to expand and protect the pedestrian walking areas, perhaps by rerouting the lanes from 3 to 2 for some or all of the overpass, making more space to cross on the sides. The other overpass or underpass locations could be East Burnett Street or a new overpass crossing connecting Fleet Farm area to the Corporate Drive area. A recent pedestrian overpass in Madison over Highway 30 that could not have been paid for by a bake sale, but maybe thousands of bake sales, let's just say. The overpass over 151 would likely need to be a little bit longer than that one because 151 is more lanes than Highway 30. Talking with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, they confirmed the overpass cost, yikes, and suggested that an underpass would be a cheaper option in the right location. Either way, federal funding and the construction process is a long one, beginning with a feasibility and engineering study. This is a future-forward recommendation that would likely take years to implement, but is generally supported by the community need to easily and safely cross 151. So we believe it should be included in this portfolio of recommendations. So thank you for considering all the ways we can build on what we have now to create a safer and more connected community for today and tomorrow.
All right, thank you. If you're still with us, appreciate you sticking around. As mentioned, we are Community Pride. Our members, Rich, Mark, Steve, and also Dirk. So if you're still here, raise your hands. Thank you. I'm not going to read through all this. This is our vision, but a couple of things to point out. We just wanted to focus on Beaver Dam continuing to be a beacon of community values, historical richness, and healthy recreational opportunities with educational, cultural, shopping, business, housing, and recreational opportunities. Some of our value statements focus on efficient and responsible use of funds, proactive planning, pride and belonging, and a safe and secure environment where all residents feel protected and can thrive. Also, transparency and open communication, the ability to preserve and improve our natural resources for future generations, and then focusing on infrastructure, amenities, and services that promote health, happiness, safety, and prosperity. Here are our guiding principles. I will not read through all those. A lot of them are very similar to what you've seen and heard already today. So this was a grounding quote for us as we thought about our recommendations. So we use this as our anchor in thinking about what we wanted to propose. Our first proposal is a Cotton Mill Park public pier. So we've heard a lot about recreation and we've heard a lot about our Lake District. So this is just an improvement to that area. I think we're last because a lot of our things overlap with a lot of the things that were already said. So bear with me. I know we weren't supposed to talk about money and costs, but money talks. So we have that on here. Probably somewhere around these ranges. So Cotton Mill Public Park Pier, just what are some benefits? Economic stimulus through local business spending, further community engagement, enhanced recreation and tourism, and some of the ways that we would improve and use those costs, obviously for installation, annual maintenance, and signage. We have lots of quotes and pictures. We don't have a lot of words. If you know me, I'm brief, but it depends on who you talk to. One thing that we wanted to focus on that we kind of took inspiration from the Bean in Chicago. We would not make it that big, obviously, but something as a focal point to highlight Beaver Dam, something for our community to find pride in, but also to bring in tourists. And so we are proposing a large beaver statue. Doesn't have to be made of wood, doesn't have to look like this. These are some examples, but something that can draw tourists in, but also allow us to show our pride in Beaver Dam. See the cost there on the left. What are the benefits? Again, it helps to promote our community identity, public engagement as well. It's something to talk about. Economic impact could be something for local neighboring communities to come and visit. Educational opportunities. Who doesn't want to learn about a giant beaver? And tourism. As Lauren just mentioned, talking about connecting both sides of the 151, so we looked into that option as well. Our proposal is more of a pedestrian bridge versus adding on to current roadways, and you can see very similar area that we're looking at. Can you see that there? Yeah, there you go. So another way for us to connect both sides of our community, as many of us are aware, the eastern side of 151 is continuing to grow, and so finding ways for both sides of our community to connect would be a way for us to show pride. Again, improves the access, enhanced safety. Right now, there really isn't a safe way for those that bike or walk to get across 151. I know when I take my family on bike rides and we cross, I'm terrified. So I have young kids, so they don't listen. Community connectivity, environmental sustainability, and economic value as well. we're rolling here. I'm going to get done in less than 10 minutes. Pickleball, very big in our community right now. Our community has really supported our outdoor pickleball space. They just broke ground yesterday on the new courts that are being installed. We are proposing a permanent public indoor pickleball space. Right now, we've got several indoor spaces that are utilized, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the YMCA, middle school. We are looking for something more permanent, so proposing that we either look at vacant storefronts or vacant buildings that currently exist and repurposing those into indoor pickleball space. Some benefits: you could use it for a variety of purposes as well. It doesn't have to just be strictly pickleball. Again, it promotes physical and mental health, intergenerational community. It would be a visitor destination, and we could possibly host tournaments. There are surrounding communities that do have indoor pickleball spaces that are drawing our pickleballers to them, so this would be a way to keep our pickleballers here in Beaver Dam, and also welcome any other ballers. Just here for the laughs. I'm an educator, so this one was important to me. So finding a way to incorporate a children's museum or science center in our community. As somebody mentioned earlier, we have winters that aren't great. And so finding ways for our students and our kids in the community and families to find something fun and educational to do indoors would be a benefit to us as well. So again, enhanced education, a STEM focus, and it would be a way for surrounding communities and local areas to bring in tourism. We know that Madison has a children's museum, Sun Prairie has a children's museum, Fond du Lac has something, but Beaver Dam does not. And as the largest city in Beaver Dam, it could be a way for us to bring in more visitors. So this is, oh, hello. Okay, here we go. All right, this is another proposal that has been brought up by several other committees, but looking at building a city center. We looked at a couple of various areas that this could be feasible. One area that we looked at more closely would be kind of the area right behind the watermark. We thought along the river would be a destination that people would enjoy. There is quite a bit of parking lot space back here to provide parking, but really trying to reutilize that space and make it a green space. We'd have the pedestrian bridge there. That's a nice focal point as well. And so you could utilize that space as a gathering space with a gazebo. And also one of the things that we've looked at as well as another opportunity is to utilize the side of any building space to put a not super large or gaudy, but some kind of LED display that could be used to showcase events and things that are happening around Beaver Dam, but also be an area for local businesses to advertise. So how does it benefit us? It connects us better than we already are. Again, as was mentioned earlier, we do have Swan Park, but that's not something that's in downtown. And with the amount of events that happen in our downtown area, a city center or something of the like would be a great place for us to connect with each other. More tourism and entertainment. This is our last one. So improved safety facilities. Just looking at how can we improve the current facilities that we have in police and fire. We're not recommending building new ones. The police station is rather new, but there are some ways that we could enhance those facilities. So the cost there is for new. It wouldn't be that much. That was really just to be, we wouldn't want new. We don't need new. Just improve the space we currently have. So it's an increased space for growing staff. The fire department could benefit from some safe locker facilities for both genders of the fire department people. Improved plumbing, HVAC and roof, and improved roofing and flooring. So again, these are just improvements on the spaces that currently exist. Nathan.
On behalf of the CAP committee, we want to thank the staff and City Council for the wonderful opportunity to allow the community to create a long-term vision for Beaver Dam and to assess not only some of the issues that currently exist, but more importantly, to imagine the future and all the fresh ideas and opportunities that can be created to constructively plan for the current and future needs of the community, enabling the community to not just recommend potential projects, as they did tonight, that impact the lives of residents and visitors, but to create new opportunities to continue the community engagement, the ongoing support, and the potential project funding. Committee members, please stand. We want to thank you for all your hard work and commitment to the CAP project and the future of Beaver Dam. Please stand. Thank you so much for all your hard work, and we want to thank all of you for attending tonight, and we wish you all a good evening. Thank you.